and left her shoes in the van. So like, you know, there's a pair of flip flops back there that belong to a student. Well, which one? Well, the one up there that doesn't have any shoes on.
Yeah.
They were all excited and they were gone. We pick them up tomorrow afternoon. Shane and I are going together. And Richard and his wife are going. And we'll pick them all up and bring them back up.
All right.
And wait for your number. Thank y'all for transporting them and for all that you do for that. Last, did you have something?
I do have, want to talk about that partnership with Toyota Music Factory, the club, for those that were not. Let's roll!
All right, for remember, my name is Lassiter Alvarez. I'm a past president for the club and.
I remember you.
Yeah.
Eric. Now, so I'm doing my kid.
I still heard.
There you go. Thanks. I joined the club, right? I joined the club. So Rick Lindsay has been helping us with the Irving Marathon running series at Toyota Music Factory with installing flags for race mornings. And they always look beautiful. Yeah, the idea has been that we place the visiting countries. So that way they feel welcome, but also it just brings some different atmosphere for the venue. Well, we had the last event last weekend, the property manager there asked me where to leave the flags, and I pointed out Rick and all the work that he's done, and he's like, well, the World Cup's coming. So he had the idea of, well, we want to identify the countries that are playing here at AT&T Stadium. So with that in mind, he asked if the Rotary Club would be willing to help out with installing the flags for the countries that are visiting in three different locations of the venue. In the front, on the top of the bar in the plaza, and on top of the building at Shoals, so that way it's visible from the highway. And so we came up with a plan. They are going to give a $2,000 donation to the club, which was suggested that it should be used for scholarships so that we can award 2 more scholarships in 2027. And so they're gonna pay the flags because we have no need for other country flags, and there's 3 sets of each of the 10 countries are coming. So we're gonna be working on that project next week to install the flags. So if any Rotarians want to be part of that, Rick and I still working on the details for that. Some of you have been included in the communication, but we'll follow up. But we were able to again work with the venue to add 2 more scholarships to the Urban Schools Foundation for 2027. And now whenever you drive on the venue, you see the flags, you see that the club kind of handed that. Cool, that's all.
Any other announcements?
You want me to?
Sure.
Anna?
How long do I have? How long to speak?
You have 1 minute.
I'll speak as little, short or as long as you need me to. I'm your guest.
Yeah.
You got music?
Yeah.
Until everyone falls asleep.
Walk off song.
We are ahead. Last year, we had about 90,000 total for the year. This year, you are at 92.6. And we're just. That's about 40 flags at $70 each, be about 2,800. So we still got some flags to move. We are at 1,389 flags.
Yeah.
If we wanted to hit $100,000, which is just unbelievable, we need to sell about 120, 130 more flags. We've got 30 out of 72 of the Millennium sold. And so many of you bought 2. Frank Boyles from Bill from the Wednesday morning group, he re-signed up. I saw his name there the other day. We have opportunity. I was there yesterday. Bill, we had 45 flags yesterday to be rebuilt, but there wasn't any routes that had pulled. So I think we're gonna be real busy, Bill, getting ready for Flag Day.
I'm planning on disassembling Monday. And once I get them all disassembled, then I'll let Laura know for sure because we have a social next week. And probably a week from that Saturday, we'll need to get together and build flags.
Okay, great.
I'll just shoot, I think Richard, we still need to pay it was full and I'll get down there Monday to get them all paid.
Yeah, I counted there 45 on the table, but all the teams were not in. So I'm guessing it's gonna be 100 or more. I called Bob, he said there should be about 80 new. He said he can get them here overnight. So if need be, we'll just do it. It's like 33 for last. Congratulations, Rotarians. Great job. In 1777, the Second Continental Congress approved the Betsy Ross flag that had 13 stars and the stripes, 7 and 6. We're going to honor that on June the 14th again with Flag Day, and I'm going to go buy a few of those Betsy Ross. Oh, I have to put them somewhere real nice. If you want, let me know and I can give you money. But I'm gonna go to Simon's and get some of those Betsy Ross things. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Your evil free rider, so 3 more.
Any other announcements before we move on to our program? Okay, then without further ado, today we have David Lee, who is the Director of Education and Programming for the Dallas Historical Society. So David, come on up.
All right.
All right.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the invitation to come out and visit with you again. See if that'll work. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yes.
Good. All right, so today I wanted to share a little bit of information about the history of the Dallas Historical Society, a little bit about our founder, the beautiful and historic Hall of State building, why it was constructed, how it was constructed, and then some of the things that we're up to today. If anyone hasn't visited, I encourage you to come out and see what we're all about.
There we go.
There we go. So, founded in 1922, the Dallas Historical Society is one of the city's oldest and most important civic institutions. For the last 100+ years, it's been supported by many of the most prominent leaders, families, companies, and organizations of Dallas. The society is dedicated to the preservation of Dallas and Texas history. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and exhibit the heritage of Dallas and North Texas to educate and inspire present and future generations. Over the next few minutes, I want to share some of our history with you. I'm going to start by a discussion of our founder, Mr. George Bannerman Dealey, and then a brief history of the construction of the magnificent Hall of State, which has been our home since 1938. I'll share a few of the most significant artifacts from our collection of over more than 3 million items. Some of our current opportunities, activities, and some opportunities to get involved in our work. So George Bannerman Dealey was born in Manchester, England in 1859. And like many families that originally came to Texas, his family fell on a little bit of financial difficulties and immigrated to Galveston, Texas in 1870. 4 years later, he started working for A.H. Belo at the Galveston News. He actually took over for his brother as office helper. And in 1881, Colonel Belo sent him to North Texas. He worked his way up through the newspaper, doing a variety of jobs and going to college at night. But by 1881, he was trusted enough to be given an important mission. And the job was to survey the towns of North Texas and estimate the circulation for a potential duplicate newspaper. Today, sometimes we hear about, media all being the same and major corporations controlling the media. Well, the same thing happened back then. A duplicate newspaper would use the telegraph to repeat the same stories in a different location. And that was the idea back in 1881. Dealey traveled all over North Texas and he reported back to Colonel Belo that Dallas was the best location. The railroads met there and Dallas was really starting to grow as a city. And so the first edition of the Dallas Morning News appeared on October 1st, 1885, a copy of which is currently in our collection. As the years rolled on and the city of Dallas grew and prospered, Dealey prospered too. And by 1895, he was the manager of the Dallas Morning News. He received a series of promotions until he was able to purchase the newspaper in 1926. Beyond his business success, Dealey was deeply committed to Dallas. He took an active part in the development and growth of the city, including establishing Fair Park as a public park in 1904, spearheading the movement supporting the Kessler Plan that guided the city's growth from the 1910s to 1930s, helping bring SMU to Dallas in 1911, and the Federal Reserve Bank in 1914. For years, Dealey had advocated for a historical society. He recognized that many of the city's founding fathers and mothers were dying, and there was no real effort to preserve or collect early Dallas history. Around 1908, a visiting writer expressed frustration at being unable to find information about the early history of Dallas. And a morning news writer commented on this in the paper. In 1920, a reader sent in a faded copy of that article. And on Sunday, March the 21st, 1920, a morning news editorial stated, Dallas ought to have a historical society. With the help of the University Club, an organizing dinner was held on Friday, March 31st, 1922, at the Oriental Hotel in downtown Dallas. Attendees were charged $1 each, payable at the door. Professor John Wynne Martin spoke on the importance of preserving local history. He stated, quote, the nation that is not proud of its history is not worthy of the name of the nation. And the city that is not proud of its history is not worthy of the name city. After Wynn's speech, the group approved a motion to form a permanent organization called the Dallas Historical Society. They then created bylaws and a constitution based on examples from similar organizations in other cities. And Article 2 described the purpose of the society as, quote, the discovery, collection, preservation, publication of the history, historical records, and data of and relating to the city and county of Dallas, Texas, the collection and preservation of books, newspapers, maps, genealogies, portraits, paintings, relics, manuscripts, letters, journals, and any and all materials which may establish or illustrate such history, and the cultivation of a taste for historic inquiry and study among its members. That's a pretty good summation of what we have in our collection and what we try to do. Membership was open to any reputable person interested in gathering and preserving historical materials, willing to pay the $1 initiation fee and $2 annually. If you were able to contribute more, you could become a continuing member for $25 a year, a sustaining member for $50 a year, or a lifetime membership for $100. Keep in mind, a 1922 dollar is worth about $20 today. As historian Michael V. Hazel described the founding of the Dallas Historical Society, he said it had no home, no staff, and no money. What it did have was a small but dedicated group who believed that to be a great city, Dallas needed a historical society. The early years were very challenging. With no facilities or even a permanent office, it had nowhere to store historical material or make them available to research. With Professor Herbert Pickens Gambrell's support, the Dallas Historical Society collections were transferred to the SMU Library in November of 1933. The Society's collection continued to grow, and the staff expanded too. Gambrell became the first curator in June. In the fall of 1934, Miss Virginia Letty Somerville was hired as the first archivist. But the move to SMU was only a temporary solution. The university was growing and the Dallas Historical Society. And it soon became clear that the Historical Society needed a home of its own. Now, 1936 would prove to be a momentous year for Dallas. For years, state officials had pondered celebrating the 100th anniversary of Texas independence from Mexico. But little more than talk occurred until 1934. Once again, similar to how politicians sometimes operate today, right? That year, the Texas legislature finally got around to creating the Texas Centennial Commission to supervise the celebration. Part of the task was to determine the location for a central exposition. The chosen city had to provide at least 200 acres of land, including all utility services, and offer the largest financial incentive. June of 1934, the commission issued a call for proposals with a deadline for September 1st. Now, keep in mind, this was the height of the Great Depression. Texas relied on cotton. Something like 75 to 80% of the Texas economy was still based on cotton in the 1930s. And oil provided a glimmer of relief with the discoveries out in East Texas around Kilgore. But the Depression had caused cotton prices to collapse, and overproduction of oil flooded the market, depressing that market as well. So expectations for the Centennial were high. The city that landed the coveted celebration could expect an economic stimulus in the form of construction projects, new jobs, and hopefully a steady influx of tourists ready to crack open their wallets. Now, 5 cities were initially entered competition. There were Austin, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas. Before long, Fort Worth and Austin withdrew from consideration, and San Antonio and Houston were clearly considered the frontrunners. After all, Houston was close to the San Jacinto battlefield, and it was the largest city in Texas. San Antonio had the Alamo, the cradle of Texas liberty. And Dallas didn't even exist in 1836. When we have field trips, I ask students to imagine if we had a time machine, go back to 1836, what would we see in Dallas? And many of them are surprised to learn that they would see a wilderness, Native Americans perhaps passing through, but no permanent settlement until the 1840 or 1850s. But Dallas did have something unique. Dallas had ambitious leaders, and even more importantly, Dallas had money. When the remaining cities' offers were revealed, San Antonio had offered $4.8 million. Houston offered $6.5 million. And Dallas offered a whopping $7.8 billion. In addition, the Dallas Centennial Commission, led by banker Robert Lee Portman, included the use of Fair Park and promised that Dallas bid would stand even if the state and federal governments failed to contribute a cent to the cost of the exhibition. When the commission visited Dallas, Thornton was asked on a tour of the fairgrounds if they would have an estimate. Without missing a beat, he replied, I won't use the exact word he replied, but heck yeah, Texas is gonna have a Texanic-sized esplanade. A couple of minutes later, while the tour was looking at another part of the park, he asked one of his assistants, hey, what's an esplanade? And that's a park-like area with walkways, and it's right there if you've been out to Fair Park, directly across from the Hall of Fame where the beautiful fountains are. Heck yeah, that's the Dallas way. We're not sure how we're going to pay for it.
But F yeah.
We're not 100% sure where the money's going to come from, but we're going to do it bigger and better than anyone else. In September of 1934, Dallas was announced as a location for the Texas Centennial. The state did ultimately contribute $1.7 million, and the federal government another $1.2 million. With the location determined, the Herculean task of transforming the fairgrounds began earnestly. One of the centerpiece buildings would be the State of Texas building, an enduring monument to the heroes and builders of Texas. Oh, there's Mr. Thornton out in front of the Hall of State, watching over the fairgrounds. A forceful symbol of the past and present glories and future greatness of Texas. The original design for the building was led by Centennial architect George Dahl. However, there was a change, and a consortium of architects led by a young Houston architect named Donald Bartleby ultimately produced the design. Now, one of the interesting things about Mr. Bartolome is that when he came on board, he was very disappointed to find out that the plaques identifying the architects and builders had already been sent to the foundry to be cast. And they told him, we're sorry, Mr. Bartolome, we can't get your name on the building. It's too late. We're under a deadline. Believe it or not, the entire building was constructed in less than a year, but he almost found a way to get his name on the building. When you come out to the Hall of State, if you look at the top left of the building, you will see the name of Texas heroes from the Revolution. And starting on the left side with Burleson, Barthelm, and then Burnett. He said, I couldn't think of another leader whose name started with B, but he almost got his name on it. So there's a little Easter egg to help us remember the contributions of Donald Barthelme. Work on the foundation started in September of 1935. Back there, you can kind of see it under construction. And work on the building did not start, the building itself, until December. With a little more than 5 months left to the opening, it became clear that the Texas State Building may not be ready. When the gates opened on June 6, 1936, the exterior looked complete, but much of the interior was unfinished. Finally, the building opened to the public on September 5th, halfway through the centennial. Former Governor Pat Neff called it the Westminster Abbey of the New World at the dedication. And visitors were impressed with massive sculptures of Texas heroes created by Pompeo Capini. Each of the 4 regional rooms featured exhibits that depicted the history of Texas with artifacts from across the state assembled by DHS Director Herbert Gambrell. To this day, the Hall of State, as it is now known, stands as a permanent monument to Texas history and a magnificent example of Art Deco architecture. The building itself cost $1.2 million in 1936, $1 million for the building and $200,000 for the interior furnishings. Every element of the building, every design choice reflects some aspect of Texas history or Texas cultures. On the doors, you can see scenes that identify the economic activity of Texas, such as ranching and timber and farming. The entrance of the building features Dallas sculptor Allie Tennant's Tejon Warrior statue. The model was a local athlete named Austin Barbosa. It's an 11-foot tall statue clad in 24-karat gold leaf. And she chose a stylized representation of a warrior. And she explained that she didn't believe that it should represent any specific tribe or culture, but that it should recognize the contributions of all the Native Americans that lived in Texas prior to European arrival. You'll also notice that the statue, whoops, went too far, does not include an arrow. She didn't want it to be seen as a warlike pose. She wanted it to be an optimistic, futuristic vision of hope and progress. The blue in the background references our state plant, our state flower, the blue bonnet.
Oh, yeah.
So, and there are things that I'm still learning about our building after about 3 years of being there. In the Hall of the Heroes are those 6 bronze statues created by Pompeo Capini. He also did the Alamo Cenotaph and statues down at the Capitol of Austin. A survey of Texas historians, about 300 historians, selected Stephen F. Austin, Sam Houston, Mirabel Lamar, Thomas Russ, James Walker Fannin, and William Merrick Travis for enshrinement in the hall. The Great Hall, the central room of the Hall of State, features murals and work all done by faculty at Yale University. This is very controversial. Almost all the work done on the Hall of State building was done by Texas artists and sculptors, except for the Great Hall. That's because the Centennial Commission wanted famous people that would be widely recognized back in the 1930s. So we have these 2 murals that are over 60 feet tall and 90 feet long that were done by Eugene Savage and a team of artists. He was a famous painter and instructor at Yale. Many of the people that worked on the paintings were his students. One of the interesting things is the night before it opened to the public, Dr. Gambrell called me, Mr. Savage, and said, "Sir, we have a problem." And Mr. Savage said, "No, what do you mean? It's done. It's ready. We're opening the doors in the morning." And he said, "No, Anson Jones is nowhere in the mural." And Savage, not being a Texan, said, "Anson Jones? I never heard of the guy." said, the last president of the Republic of Texas, whose quote about annexation is right over the end of the room. Uh-oh. And so he quickly went back up on the wall and painted Anson Jones in, but the paint would have still been wet the next morning when the building opened. So I tell students, have you ever pulled an all-nighter and had to wait to the last minute? Well, Mr. Savage could relate. At the end of the room is the Great Seal, the Great Medallion of Texas. The sculptor of that was Joseph Rainier. And they had great trouble finalizing the design for this. If you look carefully, and it's much more resplendent in person, there are 6 symbols representing the 6 nations that Texas has been a part of around the 5-pointed star. And I said, we went through dozens and dozens of different designs. And finally someone just said, why don't you just point 2 at the bottom points and then evenly space the others? And he said, why didn't we think of that a long time ago? And then there's a hand-stitched ceiling that's decorated by an artist named George Davidson. There are murals on the floor of mosaics. Again, every element of the building references Texas. In our North Texas room, the art includes the only true fresco in the building. It was painted by a man named Arthur Starr Niendorf, a local Texas artist. Took 5 months to complete. Mr. Niendorf was a student of the famous Mexican mural painter Diego Rivera, and art students have told me they can see a resemblance in the style of the work. The central figure surrounding the family and cities of North Texas. It's interesting to me that since 1936, the primary means of employment and economic activities in our region are still kind of the same: transportation, banking, farming. But that character is known as Old Man Texas. And he was created by cartoonist John Knott. He was in the morning news. He's largely forgotten today. It's kind of like an Uncle Sam for Texas. He came to represent common sense, low taxes, and he featured in the Dallas Morning News from about the 1920s all the way to the mid-1950s. We know that because over in the corner is a rolled up newspaper with the first appearance of Old Man Texas in the morning news. Our South Texas room features a painting by James Owen Mahoney, featuring life down along the Rio Grande Valley. And we use that room to showcase our magnificent Alamo diorama. It's over 300 square feet. It took 20 years for the artist to complete and showcases the final assault on the Alamo. If you haven't been there, we encourage you to come out and see it. Our East Texas room features work from an artist named Olin Travis, showcasing life in the East Texas in the 1800s, and then in the 1930s with the discovery of oil and the oil fields out in East Texas. I shouldn't have a favorite room, but I'm very fond of our West Texas room, which also functions as our research library and has a Western motif, with 2 paintings by the famous El Paso artist Tom Lee, L-E-A, arguably the most famous artist to have done any work in our building. Also a favorite of President George W. Bush. One of his later paintings was in the Oval Office during his presidency, and is now at SMU at his presidential center. Now, after the centennial concluded, the city of Dallas, which owned Fair Park, was expected to take over and operate the Hall of State as a shrine of Texas history. 1937 saw a smaller event than Pan American Exposition that wasn't as successful. And at this time, Dr. Gambrell saw an opportunity for the Hall of State to serve as a repository and museum for the many artifacts that were gathered for the centennial. And so on May the 20th, 1938, the Dallas Historical Society signed a contract with the city of Dallas to occupy the Hall of State, to make and provide all rules and regulations for the operation and use of the museum, exhibits, and buildings. Thanks to 2 major renovation projects, one in 2019 to restore the building to its 1936 glory, and another to repair flooding damage that occurred in 1921. The Hall of State today appears much as it did during the centennial. It remains a shrine to Texas history and a showplace for some of the Dallas Historical Society's collection, which includes over 3 million historic artifacts and documents. The collection includes the only surviving copy of the Juneteenth document that proclaimed the end of slavery in Texas, Santa Anna's spurs and flag from the Battle of San Jacinto, Colonel Fannon's watch, and numerous items from all eras of Dallas history. One of our recent acquisitions was the Tom and Alicia Landry collection. that showcases the life and career of the legendary Cowboys coach, and the massive Alamo diorama created by Mr. Tom Feely. We have some special events coming up this summer to commemorate and honor the 250th anniversary of the United States. We will be proudly showcasing the only copy of the Declaration of Independence, original copy that is west of the Mississippi River, along with some other significant documents from the American Revolution. Those exhibits will open, I believe, at the end of next week. And we have a continual rotating schedule of exhibits. An exhibit that is about to come down is called Dynamic Dallas Women, featuring innovators and leaders from every field of endeavor. And so we really hope that you will come out and visit us. We're a membership-based organization. We constantly fundraise and seek grants. I'm very pleased to announce that our field trip program, which had gone completely dormant when I arrived, has expanded. And over the last year, we had over 4,000 Texas school children visit and engage in activities, learning about Texas history. We want to make sure that people know about the Hall of State and know about us. It belongs to us. It belongs to all the people of Texas. And it's important that future generations of Texans, all generations of Texans, understand our history and our heritage. So thank you for the opportunity to share some of the beautiful details and history of our organization and building. And I'm happy to answer what questions you may have if you have time. It's 12:50. Was that about right?
Nailed it.
Are you open 7 days a week?
We are open to the public year round. We are interrupted by the State Fair of Texas, so we close to the public for 2 or 3 weeks before and after the fair for exhibit teardown or installation. But we are open from Tuesdays through Sunday from 10 to 5, and we are open on Sundays from 1 to 5. We also have a new initiative, the Moody Immersive Learning app, which will allow you to take a digital tour using an iPad, and it brings the art to life. And so it's kind of a self-guided tour. We're still in some of the testing phases of that, but it's available now if you call ahead. But we're eventually going to have a full-time concierge person there to sign out and assist with the technology and really innovate. One of the challenges we have is that we can't change our building. You know, if you go to different museums, the Dallas Museum of Art or the Dallas Holocaust Human Rights Museum, the New Metal, any modern museum, a building that's specifically created, they can alter everything. They can move walls and paint things and redesign exhibits. We have to operate within the framework that our building itself is a historical artifact. So one of the ways we found to modernize the story and expand the story is through the use of technology. But we'd love to have you come out and visit, and you know, if any of you want to come out and do a group tour, if I'm available, that's one of the things that I am able to do.
You mentioned membership. I guess you can buy a ticket for the day.
We don't charge admissions to visit the museum, but we have multiple levels of membership, and all of that information may be found on our website, dallashistory.org. We also do historical programming lectures throughout the year. For example, tonight, I'm really excited about this. We have Dr. Catherine Landeck from Texas Women's University, and she's going to speak about her book, The Women That Wore the Silver Wings, the Women Army Service Pilots of World War II, which is really nice tie-in to our current women's exhibit. So we have different historical speakers, lectures, events, all throughout the year. So if you appreciate history, we're a great place to come visit. Yes, sir.
Mr. Lee, could you talk a little bit about when the Constitution is coming, what else would accompany that in debts?
So my understanding is it's going to run through the summer. Fair Park is also the location for the FIFA Fan Fest, which the first matches begin next week. So we're still navigating some of that. You know, we are in the middle of Fair Park. There are other tenants and other events that take place, but we will remain open. There will be parking available nearby. And so we're hoping also to get some foot traffic. My understanding, and I'm not on the exhibits team, is it's going to be installed next week. It will include the Declaration of Independence. I believe it's going to include a draft, one of Thomas Jefferson's original drafts that the Mercury One Foundation has, which I think is here in Las Colinas. Our original copy of the Juneteenth document always goes up in the summer as well. And so I think there may be one more document that's going to be there on display. So The Declaration of Independence has been on the 7th floor of the library downtown, but most people don't know it's there. They've got a nice case for it, but it's just kind of tucked away in the library. So it'll be great to get that out where more people can come and see it and experience it. And as I said, we hope to get some FIFA visitors, maybe some international visitors too. Come on out. We'd love to see you there. That should start. I would say if you're going to come out second half of next week would be about the earliest time you can see it. Sometimes the installation takes more than I think Monday is supposed to be the installation day, but you never know. Sometimes there are hiccups. You have to have special cases that have to be protected from light. And I do think we're also going to be open on Mondays throughout the summer, specifically because that exhibit's going to be up. So normally that's pretty standard in the museum world, is you close on Mondays to clean and refresh the exhibits. But we should be open all summer.
July 4th, you'll be open.
I believe we will be open. Staff will be there, unless there's an emergency and I get called in. But we have a security officer there, and then the building, I believe, will be open.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How are they gonna move the Declaration of Independence?
That is a great question. I do not contract with a firm that also moves art for like the Dallas Museum of Art and for heritage auctions. Not to be snide, but I'm glad I'm not directly involved in that. And there are lots of insurance and bonds included, being one of those providers. So I know light is a huge issue, and that's one reason that we do not keep the Juneteenth document on display year round. Because light will over time damage historical documents, so they need to rest. Same with paintings. And so we have to have special cases that limit the amount of light, and even with that, limit the amount of time that they're on display. And that Juneteenth document is really special. The Smithsonian says they have a copy, but what they actually have is a general's order book or his assistant copy and a handwritten note. What we have is one of the actual broadside, the only one that's known to exist, that would have been sent across Texas and posted on places like courthouses and post offices to finally announce liberation. There's a great reenactment in Galveston. You can go down there on Juneteenth, where someone in a general's uniform dressed up as General Granger stands on the balcony and reads the proclamation. Nice visual, but it didn't happen. They broadcast it out. The word spread in communities across Texas. So sometimes, we like those legends. And we're very thankful. I have to acknowledge our field trip program through HEB and their Helping Here Foundation. When I started, there were no field trips, and every school that I contacted, private, public, charter, said, Mr. Lee, we'd love to come, but we don't have any money. There's no money in the budget for transportation. And so thanks to the generosity of HEB and the hard work of our development team, we received a grant to reimburse schools for the cost of the buses. And we've even been able to provide schools with box lunches when they come out for a field trip. And we actually have them doing activities. They're not just looking at history. They're engaged in doing a scavenger hunt, finding information from the audit. We've developed a card game, Texas History Trail, timeline of the Texas Revolution. So we have some fun, engaging things that supports what's happening in the classroom. And one thing you can help us with just increasing awareness, but also, any teachers, our principals, our school folks, tell them to go check out our website. The calendar has started to fill up. This last year, we had to turn some schools away because we already booked. But I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish and the number of school children that we've hosted this year. So, and we do tours for groups too. So if you all want to come out sometime. Did you have a question, sir?
What if we know the superintendent?
I'll give one. Oh, outstanding. Yes, we have an MOU with Richardson. Every fourth grader at Richardson ISD visited. We've hosted Dallas ISD, Mesquite, Birdville, and the feedback has been very, very supportive. That not only is it engaging, but it aligns with the curriculum standards. I'm a teacher. My background is in education and curriculum development. And so when I started, I wanted to make 100% sure. I told our director, I said, if it's not aligned with the curriculum, it's going to be a tough sell with principals, because we're in an age of accountability and we need to support what's going on in the classroom and make sure that we're reinforcing those standards. And it's been very successful.
And it does fit perfect with your Texas history.
Absolutely. So 4th and 7th grade are kind of our sweet spots. We do have sometimes high school groups and other grade levels. We don't turn anyone away, but those are our core target audience of our field trips.
Any other questions? All right, that was great. Thank you. Next week, I've mentioned to a couple of y'all, I have a Slack this week. I did try to find us somewhere to have a social, but I haven't pinned it down yet. So be watching for an email from me to say where it's gonna be on Tuesday. No meeting here next week, so don't come here next week. If no one has anything else, then please stand and Laz will lead us in the full basis.
All right, fellow Rotarian, protector, member and visiting guests, please join us for the four-way test of the things that we think, say, or do. First, is it true? Second,
Is it fair? Officer.
third,
Will it feel good?
and fourth.
To all officers.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.